She was shaking in her chair, mascara running down her face, while the words kept bouncing around the quiet cafe. "You're just too big for me." She hadn't even finished processing it when a stranger from the next table stood up. And that moment didn't just fix her night. It rerouted her life. The wine glass in Lena Brooks's hand trembled. She stared at the man across from her, trying to understand what he had just said. Chase Miller, already on his feet, tossed a folded $20 on the table like he was paying for a spill. "That should cover your water," he said, voice flat over the soft background music. "Use the rest for a gym membership." The insult just hung there. Lena's perfectly applied lipstick, the shade she'd debated for 15 minutes, suddenly felt like a joke on her own mouth. 40 minutes earlier, she'd walked into Willow Street Café with hope. She'd checked her reflection in her phone, smoothed her royal blue dress, practiced a smile. This was supposed to be a good first date. I don't understand," Lena whispered, her voice barely above the clinking dishes. "My pictures were recent. I didn't hide anything." Chase rolled his eyes and glanced at his watch like she was wasting valuable time. "Look, I'm a personal trainer. I have a reputation. Being seen with someone like you, that's bad for business. You're just not what I expected." "You're too, that's enough." The voice came from the table beside them. Deep, steady, the kind that makes people stop mid-sentence. A tall man rose from the corner booth. Marcus Reed, about 6'2", stood up slowly, like someone who knows exactly what he's doing. His brown eyes locked on Chase, and Chase instinctively stepped back. "Is this your date?" Chase scoffed, trying to sound confident again. "It is now," Marcus said, walking closer. His hands stayed relaxed at his sides, but there was a solid, protective energy around him that made a couple of other customers look over. "You've said enough. You can leave." Chase let out a short, nervous laugh. "Oh, I get it. You're her boyfriend. Makes sense. Losers stick together." Marcus didn't even take the bait. Instead, he went right past Chase, pulled out the chair across from Lena, and sat down like she was the only person in the room who mattered. He looked straight into her eyes, warm brown meeting tear-filled green, and there was a flicker of understanding there. "Not pity, recognition. Mind if I sit?" he asked her gently, completely ignoring Chase. Lena nodded, still stunned. Mascara streaked on her cheeks. Marcus turned his head toward Chase. "She's beautiful," he said plainly. "You're just too shallow to see it. Now walk out of here before I forget my daughter told me to use my words and not my fists." The mention of a daughter threw Chase off. He muttered something about pathetic and stalked out of the cafe, his expensive cologne staying behind longer than he did. For a moment, Willow Street Café went quiet. Lena could feel people watching, some sympathetic, some just nosy. Heat climbed up her neck. She wanted to disappear, but she couldn't make her legs move. I'm sorry," she said to Marcus in a small voice. "You didn't have to do that." "I did," Marcus said softly, grabbing a napkin from the holder and handing it to her. "Nobody deserves to be talked to like that, especially not on a night they were excited about." Lena dabbed at her eyes, smudging her makeup worse. "I must look like a complete mess." "You look like someone who just got hit with somebody else's insecurity," Marcus said. "That's not on you. That's on him. I'm Marcus, by the way." "Marcus Reed, Lena," she said. "Lena Brooks." "Lena," he repeated like he was testing the name. "Can I ask you something? When was the last time you actually ate? Like actually ate, not just pushed salad around because you were nervous?" The question caught her off guard. "I ordered a salad earlier, but yeah, I was too nervous to eat." "Happens on first dates," Marcus said, something unreadable crossing his face for a second. "How about we start over? Pretend that guy never sat here. Hi, I'm Marcus, and I was just about to order the best lasagna in Chicago. You want to eat with me? No pressure, no expectations, just two people having dinner." Lena stared at the stranger who had just stood up for her and was now offering kindness like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why would you do that for someone you don't know?" Marcus tapped his fingers lightly on the table, thinking. "Because I've got a 7-year-old at home," he said finally. "Her name's Harper. Last week she came home crying because a kid at school told her the dress she made with her grandma wasn't as pretty as the store-bought ones. I held her and told her she was perfect the way she is." He looked back toward the cafe door where Chase had left. "And sitting here tonight, hearing what that guy said to you, I realized I can't just tell Harper to stand up for people. I gotta show her. Fresh tears welled in Lena's eyes, but these weren't from humiliation. She's lucky to have you, Lena said. I'm the lucky one, Marcus said, and there was a weight in his voice that made Lena wonder what he'd been through. Right then, an older man with silver hair and a warm face walked over from behind the counter. Mr. DeLuca, the owner, set down 2 plates of steaming lasagna without being asked. On the house, he said in his thick Italian accent. Any man who stands up to bullies eats free in my place. And you, pretty girl. He nodded at Lena. You deserve better than that clown. Eat. Food fixes the heart. He walked away humming. Marcus picked up his fork. He's right, you know. About the lasagna. And about you deserving better. Lena took a careful bite. Rich tomato, creamy cheese, seasoned meat. Warmth spread through her chest. For the first time that night, she believed the evening didn't have to end with someone else's cruelty. After Mr. DeLuca walked away, the hum of the cafe settled into a softer rhythm. Marcus smiled across the table. You're about to taste the one thing that can fix a bad day, DeLuca's lasagna. Lena gave a small laugh. We'll see about that. She lifted a forkful, and the first bite melted like comfort itself. Rich sauce, creamy cheese, warmth that loosened something tight in her chest. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. The only sounds were the rain tapping the windows and the low jazz curling through the air. Lena finally said quietly, Your daughter's lucky to have a dad like you. Marcus set his fork down, thoughtful. I'm the lucky one, but it's been rough. Harper's smart, way too smart sometimes. She picks up on things faster than I can explain them. I think she gets that from her mom. Lena hesitated. Her mom? He nodded slowly. She passed. 2 years ago. Routine surgery turned into a nightmare, an allergic reaction no one could predict. I'm so sorry, Lena whispered. She was the kind of woman who always defended people who couldn't defend themselves, Marcus said softly. Guess I learned that from her. Lena managed a faint smile. I'm a pediatric nurse, she said. That made him pause. Seriously? My wife was a pediatric nurse too. 3rd floor oncology. I'm on the 5th, Lena said, surprised. We might have crossed paths and never known. They sat with that thought for a moment, a quiet thread of connection forming between them. The world suddenly felt smaller and kinder. Tell me about Harper, Lena said, wanting to hear him talk about something that brought light to his eyes. And it did. Marcus's whole face changed. She's 7 going on 35. Obsessed with art, allergic to math. She wears tutus to the grocery store because she says they make shopping magical. She's teaching herself piano on YouTube. Says she's planning a surprise for my birthday. I pretend I don't hear her practicing. Lena laughed. The first real laugh of the night. She sounds incredible. She is, Marcus agreed, then his voice softened. But it's hard sometimes. She asks about her mom less now, and somehow that hurts more. Like she's trying to protect me. I've been figuring things out. How to braid hair, what tap shoes are. But there are lessons only another woman can teach her. You're doing better than you think, Lena said. The fact that you stood up for someone tonight, that tells me everything about the kind of father you are. Marcus studied her for a moment, then said quietly, Can I tell you a secret? I've been coming here every Tuesday for 6 months. Same booth, same meal. This is the first time I've actually had a real conversation with someone. Why Tuesdays? Lena asked. His smile was wistful. Because my wife loved Tuesdays. She said Mondays were too harsh, Wednesdays too ordinary, and Fridays too predictable. But Tuesdays had potential. We had our first date on a Tuesday. Found out we were having Harper on a Tuesday. She left on a Tuesday. Without thinking, Lena reached across and took his hand. And today, she said softly, you stood up for a stranger on a Tuesday. Marcus turned his palm upward and let her fingers rest there. I should be honest, he said after a pause. I'm not exactly relationship material. Most days I'm just trying to make sure Harper's socks match. That's about as far as my organization goes. Lena smiled gently. Who said anything about a relationship? Maybe I just need a friend. Someone who understands that some days the world feels too heavy to carry alone. He chuckled. Then maybe I need a friend who doesn't judge me when I serve cereal for dinner. Harper told the neighbors we had breakfast 3 nights in a row last week. They both laughed, an easy, human kind of laughter that pushed the heaviness away. For the first time in a long while, Lena felt something simple and real take root between them. Sometimes healing doesn't start with grand gestures. Sometimes it begins with shared lasagna, rain on the window, and two people brave enough to stay at the table. Weeks slipped by quietly. The way soft music fades instead of ending, Lena and Marcus had fallen into a rhythm. A coffee here, a text there, an occasional dinner when schedules aligned. They talked about everything. Harper's wild imagination, hospital stories, grief, hope, and the strange peace that sometimes hides inside routine. Marcus always reminded her, "We're just friends. No pressure." But friendship with him felt different, steady, safe, the kind that makes breathing easier. When he spoke about Harper, his whole face changed. "She's 7 but thinks she's an adult," he said once, laughing. "Last week she cut her own bangs with safety scissors and told me it's called creative freedom." Lena couldn't stop laughing. "She definitely gets that confidence from you." Tuesday nights at Willow Street Café became tradition. Mr. DeLuca would greet them with a knowing grin. "Ah, the Tuesday pair. My favorite story in progress," he'd tease while delivering their plates of lasagna. Then, one evening, Harper joined them. She bounced into the cafe wearing a blue dress and glitter sneakers, her curls tied with a pink ribbon. She slid into the booth beside her dad and studied Lena like a scientist observing something important. "Are you the lady who was sad?" she asked innocently.
Harper.
Marcus looked mortified. "What? You said she was sad and the mean man was a jerk." "I said he wasn't nice," Marcus corrected. "Same thing," Harper shrugged. "Anyway, I like your dress. It's blue like Elsa's, but cooler 'cause it's real." Lena laughed, a real from-the-heart laugh that she hadn't felt in months. And somehow that laugh made all three of them feel like they belonged at that table. From then on, Tuesday dinners always included Harper. She'd chatter endlessly about school, make up stories about her drawings, and challenge Mr. DeLuca to judge who twirled their pasta better. No one questioned why Lena was there. Harper simply accepted her as part of their little team. One night in the middle of dessert, Harper said out of nowhere, "My mommy's in heaven. Daddy says she watches us. Do you think she'd like you?" Lena paused, then answered softly, "I hope so." "I think she would," Harper said after a long thought. "Daddy smiles more when you're here. Mommy always wanted him to smile." Marcus excused himself, but Lena noticed him swipe a tear as he walked away. By the time autumn leaves began to fall, 3 months had passed since the night at the cafe. Their friendship had settled into something gentle and grounding. Then tragedy struck at work. A premature baby Lena had been caring for didn't make it. The loss cracked something open inside her. She canceled dinner, texting that she was sick. That evening, someone knocked. When she opened the door, Marcus stood there holding a container of soup. "I'm not coming in," he said quietly. "It's from DeLuca. He swears it cures everything except heartbreak, but even then it helps a little." Lena looked wrecked. Messy hair, swollen eyes, an old sweatshirt. "I lost a patient," she whispered. Marcus set the soup down and stepped forward, wrapping her in his arms. It wasn't romantic. It was human, the kind of hug that keeps a person from falling apart. She cried until her shoulders stopped shaking. Later, sitting side by side on her couch, she said, "The worst part was the mother's eyes. Like she blamed me, and maybe she was right." Marcus shook his head. "No, you did everything you could. Sometimes life breaks our rules anyway. Trust me, I know what that feels like." They sat in silence, sharing soup and sorrow. Then Lena managed a faint smile. "You know, if that awful guy hadn't said those things that night, you and I never would have met." Marcus smiled back. "Harper says some people are meant to find us no matter what." "I'm starting to believe her." Lena laughed, a soft, tear-stained laugh that sounded like healing. "She's pretty special, your daughter." "She is," Marcus said. "Tough like her mom, and maybe a little like you now." Outside, rain drummed on the window. Inside, something fragile yet certain began to grow. A quiet understanding that sometimes the people who save us aren't the ones we're looking for, but the ones who simply show up and stay. 6 months had passed since that first Tuesday night at the cafe. What began as two strangers sharing dinner had grown into something steady and deeply rooted. Tuesday evenings were no longer about food, they were about belonging. Harper remained the bright spark between them. She filled the quiet moments with drawings, jokes, and questions only a 7-year-old philosopher could invent. And through her laughter, Lena learned that even after heartbreak, joy could still find a way in. Then came the Tuesday that changed everything. Harper was home with a cold, so it was just Lena and Marcus at their usual booth. Outside, the rain tapped gently on the windows. Inside, candles glowed against the warm hum of jazz. Marcus kept twisting his napkin. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice careful. "I've been seeing someone." Lena's stomach tightened. She forced a polite smile. "That's wonderful. Who is she?" Marcus looked up, confused for a second, and then smiled faintly. "No, not like that. I've been seeing a therapist, talking about life, about Harper, and about you." Her heart skipped. "I've been trying to make sense of how I feel," he continued. "For months I've felt something growing between us, but I didn't want it to come from loneliness or from trying to fill the space Brooke left. I needed to be sure it was real." Lena's throat tightened. "And," Marcus exhaled slowly, "and I'm in love with you. I love you because you make Harper laugh. Because you understand that grief doesn't end, it just changes shape. Because you're the first person I want to tell when anything happens, good or bad. And because you saw me at my lowest and stayed." Tears pooled in Lena's eyes. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Every relationship I've had, someone told me I was too much or not enough." Marcus reached across the table, wrapping her hand in his. "You're not too anything," he said firmly. "You're exactly right for us." Lena smiled through her tears. "I love Harper, you know." "She loves you too," he said softly. "Yesterday she asked if you could teach her how to braid hair. She says YouTube doesn't explain it right." That made Lena laugh, the kind of laugh that trembles but still shines. "I think I'm ready," she said. "Ready to stop pretending this is just friendship." Marcus squeezed her hand. "I've been ready since the night you smiled at Harper's dinosaur drawing. I just wanted you to choose this because you wanted it, not because you owed it." "I choose you," Lena said. "Both of you. All of it, the Tuesday dinners, Harper's tutus, your bad dance moves, DeLuca's lasagna. Everything." From behind the counter, Mr. DeLuca peeked out with a grin. "Ah, amore. And my lasagna never fails." Their first kiss happened right there at Willow Street Café, under soft lights with DeLuca pretending not to cry and the other diners applauding. It tasted like tiramisu and new beginnings. Months rolled forward, each one lighter than the last. A year later, Marcus chose the same cafe for another Tuesday surprise. He knelt on one knee, Harper bouncing beside him, clutching a tiny velvet box. "Lena Brooks," he began, his voice shaking. "You've brought light back into a home that forgot how to shine. You've shown Harper that family isn't just the one you're born into, it's the one you choose. And you've shown me that love isn't about replacing what we lost, but finding someone who helps carry it with us. Will you marry us?" "Say yes," Harper shouted. "I already told everyone at school you're my almost mom." Lena laughed through her tears. "Yes," she said. 1,000 times yes." From the kitchen, Mr. DeLuca raised both hands. "Today my restaurant is the luckiest place in Chicago." They married that spring in a small ceremony filled with laughter. Harper wore her favorite pink tutu over her flower girl dress, twirling down the aisle like a burst of sunshine. DeLuca catered the entire event, insisting, "It's my gift to the couple who made me believe in love again." During his vows, Marcus said, "Lena, you didn't fix me. I wasn't broken, only grieving. You made space for my sadness and loved Harper before you ever loved me. You showed us that home isn't about walls. It's about people who choose each other every day." Lena's vows were tender and true. "Marcus, you gave me something I'd stopped believing I deserved. Love without conditions. You never asked me to be smaller, quieter, or easier. And Harper, thank you for sharing your dad with me, and for proving that tutus really do make everything better." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. 4 years later, their story still bloomed. Harper, now 12, was fiercely protective of her younger twin brothers Marcus Jr. and James, who believed their big sister was a superhero. Lena still had rough days. Sometimes she'd glance in the mirror and hear echoes of old cruelty. Too big. Not enough. But then Marcus would wrap his arms around her from behind and whisper, "This body grew our children, heals other people's babies, and fits perfectly against mine. It's everything I love." Harper, now old enough to know the full story, once asked, "Do you ever wish that mean guy hadn't said those awful things to you?" Lena thought for a moment, then smiled. "No, sweetheart, because if he hadn't, your dad might never have stood up that night." We might never have met. Sometimes bad things lead to the best things. Marcus often said, kindness is the only real strength that lasts. And Lena had made that truth her mission, reminding every person who felt unworthy that they were enough, exactly as they were. On the wall of Willow Street Café, a framed photo still hangs. Marcus, Lena, Harper, and the twins laughing together, forks raised in victory. Beneath it, in Mr. DeLuca's handwriting, a small plaque reads, "For the family who proved that love always deserves a second chance, and sometimes it's served with lasagna on a Tuesday."